Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going. As I like to point out each and every day, it expands our base. This is a very difficult podcast for me to deliver. There is so much news, and to be honest with you, none of it is good. Let's begin, if we can, with international issues. In Israel, the shock of the death of Ariel and Kfir Bibas, and the fact that their mother, was not returned with the boys' bodies, and indeed we don't know where she is or whether she's alive. And Israel sits on a moment in time in which a decision has to be made about continuing to the second phase of this exchange. Exchange? Not really. The Hamas terrorists stole into Israel and removed more than 1,000 people's lives and then held hostages. There is a feeling in Israel of great tragedy, and yet there must be hope that somehow things will improve. That is the feeling in Israel, as it always is. But this, my friends, is a dark, dark day. My friends in Israel have been emailing me, Facebooking me, letting me know what they think. And everyone is in tears. These two children, Ariel and Kfir, have become the nation's children because of this tragedy. And how did Hamas celebrate the return of the bodies? Well, you can see it online. These vicious, horrific terrorists celebrated while Israel mourns. And that may be the most important single statement about where we are today. I can't tell you what will happen in terms of this weekend and whether more hostages will be released, but I can tell you that the trauma that Israel has suffered will not be forgotten. And then we have Donald Trump and his continued statements about Russia. Russia. Oh, yes, you know the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians invaded Russia, right? Russia didn't invade Ukraine. And absolutely for sure, according to Donald Trump, it is Zelensky who is, can you believe it? It is Zelensky who is the dictator, and Putin pure as the driven snow. It is as if the world has turned upside down. I used the analogy the other day of 1984, war is peace. Do you understand? It's full contradictions. And, we have to call them on it. And there is more, unfortunately. I received a request from one of our listeners to describe the Budapest Accords of 1995. President Bill Clinton, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, and the president in those days of Russia agreed that Ukraine would give up its nuclear capability and the West would guarantee the security. That is, the United States, Great Britain, and Russia would guarantee the security of Ukraine. And it wasn't worth the paper it was written on. I talked recently about the question of the Munich Agreement of 1938. Remember, that was a written agreement as well that was supposed to bring peace in our time. And it didn't. And here in the United States, a series of events that are so disturbing it is almost beyond comprehension. Kash Patel has been confirmed as director of the FBI. If you read his book, Government Gangsters, you will understand why the man is completely unfit. And yet, by a vote of 51 to 49, the United States confirmed him. And Bobby Kennedy Jr., he's already talking about certifying in some way that, yes, indeed, vaccines are safe. They've been certified. They are safe. We have a health system now in deep jeopardy. And the United States mail, have you heard the latest? Donald Trump is planning to take over the United States Postal Service himself. DeJoy, who never should have been the head of the post office, is leaving. And Trump has decided he will remake the post office department in his image. This is a moment of crisis in America. Let me be clear. More and more people are being laid off. There is now talk of leading generals in the Pentagon being removed, including the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. We are hearing rumors about more layoffs. And let me tell you, in vital areas, including the Internal Revenue Service, including Social Security, we are hearing about Elon Musk being a hero. Let me be clear. Elon Musk is the agent. Donald Trump is the executioner. It is Trump who is making the decisions. I remember years ago when Richard Nixon and Henry Kissinger were a team, and people said to me, well, Kissinger's calling the shots. Oh no, Richard Nixon was calling the shots in foreign policy. Well, what we're seeing now is the President of the United States calling the shots, but he has a convenient scapegoat. I don't know if scapegoat's the right word. Maybe it's a convenient target. He won't be blamed. It'll be Elon Musk who is blamed. It is astounding, almost beyond comprehension. And I want to say a word about the retirement of Mitch McConnell. He has announced that he will not run for another term in the United States Senate. At the age of 83, he has decided to step down. Let me say that McConnell will be remembered for being the longest-serving Senate leader in American history up to this point. But what will he really be remembered for? I believe he will be remembered for being the man who allowed Donald Trump to have another term in the White House. Had Senator McConnell voted for the second impeachment of Donald Trump over the events of January 6th, let me assure you of one thing. Donald Trump would never be president of the United States. He would have been removed from office. He would have been barred from running. But McConnell believed that the courts would handle it. And so he voted against impeachment and removal from office. And the result, Donald Trump again. And I would be remiss if I didn't answer a question that has come up repeatedly in the last few days as Donald Trump speculates about another term as president. The 22nd Amendment to the Constitution of the United States forbids a third term. Non-consecutive term or consecutive, it doesn't matter. You can't run for a third term. There is some talk of amending the Constitution. I would remind you that Harry Truman once observed that despite the 22nd Amendment, passed when he was president, he could run forever because it didn't apply to him. And if perchance there were an amendment to the Constitution, it wouldn't apply to Donald Trump. No, it applies only as he took the oath of office on January 20th, 2025. He cannot run for a third term. And then the speculation came up, well, what if he ran for vice president and the person he ran with resigned? By the way, we've seen that speculated upon before when Goldwater was urged to take Eisenhower as his running mate so that Eisenhower could come back. There were people who suggested that George H.W. Bush take Ronald Reagan as his running mate and then let Reagan run the show. That's not going to happen. This is the end of Donald Trump. That is to say, he can't run again. But do you understand? This flagrant violation of American law, the Constitution, the speculation about it, is endemic in this administration. We have a lot to be concerned about, and I will tell you, I am almost reluctant to have the weekend come because so much will happen over the weekend. But I'll be back on Monday, and I can assure you on Monday we will have a lot to talk about. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. Make sure to follow along and let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand. You know that you can interact with me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, you can email me. And I want to say a special word of thanks to Gogo Zoger, the wonderful producer of this podcast, who makes sure that Around the Political World with John Rothman is up and running every weekday. And to all of you, have a great weekend. I can't wait for Monday.